listening to lately?
A lot of Future.
Come on, man.
A lot of Future.
You trolling me?
No, I'm serious. A clip from the latest episode of Noir. It came out today. It's called Influence, and we talk about several types of influence that includes music and hip hop culture. Joining me today live is Chris Strong. What's going on, Chris?
How you doing, man?
Man, doing pretty good. That was a long conversation we had there.
Yep.
And, you know, of course, with the way showtimes run and stuff like that, sometimes everything doesn't make it into the actual conversation that we would like to get in there. So did you had a chance to watch the episode, right?
I did.
Okay. So what was something in there that you didn't see that you wish would have got in there? Because I feel like we talked about a lot of important things. And so I know you had a lot to get off your mind.
Sure. So, you know, for your viewers who may or may not have seen the episode, just to give it a little bit of history, I come from hip hop, right? Like I did the music, like I chased it for a good period in my life. And I'm someone who was influenced by, you know, the early onset of hip hop in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. You know, so when NWA is coming to the popularity, I'm 7-8 years old. You know, and it's my uncles who are playing NWA to me, yeah. Right? And it's people in my neighborhood who look like me, who walk like I walk and who talk like I talk, that listen to this music, right?
Yeah.
And so I was inspired by that to I won't say inspired by NWA, but I was inspired by hip hop as a whole to express myself, right? Mm-hmm. Back in those days, even when you had an NWA, you had more of a balanced feel, right? So you had NWA, but then you had, you know, MC Hammer and Public Enemy, for that matter. You had the full kind of encapsulation of our culture being expressed through hip hop, the good, the bad, and the ugly, mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And so you asked the question several times in our conversation about responsibility, mm-hmm. Right? At what point do we, young African-American males, come to a place where, you know, we assess ourselves and our culpability in the transformation of our culture and the representation in media of our culture as what hip hop has become, yeah. Which is ignorance and savagery. Yeah. All right. To a large degree, let's put it that way.
Yeah. I call it visual and sonic hyperbole in many ways.
Oh God, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And like I said in the video myself, it's interesting how cognizant I am of it. It's very conscious. It's not even something that lives at the back of my mind. Yet I for some reason can talk it away, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But so, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there comes the same way I get on people who kind of speak against firearms or the idea of owning a gun for protection. They don't want the responsibility. And I think in many ways I kind of engage in that same behavior. It's like there's a lot of responsibility that comes with me saying, okay, I consciously understand the destructive nature of this music. However, how much of that do I want to own?
Absolutely. And as someone who was influenced by it to become a part of the culture, to contribute to it, right? Mm-hmm. I say in the video that I have songs that sound like Future, but then I have songs that sound like Malcolm X. Yeah. All right. So there's this tug of war going on for the conscious part of my being and the part of me that wants to self-aggrandize and to promote my self-centeredness as a means of my own personal, individual economic safety, right? Like, yeah. Because there's rewards for behaving this way. Mm-hmm. So in the video, the thing that I would have liked to have seen would have been, you know, where I indict everyone involved in this process of going to the black community, the inner city community, the black and Hispanic, where hip hop was invented, with bags of hundreds of millions of dollars, and saying, okay, who can I get to behave in the most commercially viable way, yeah, in order to sell a product? And you know, that's the part of the conversation that gets left out when we have these important discussions so often.
Do you think that maybe we're dealing with, in many ways, a runaway train? And what I'm getting at is this. I think there's always been a culture in this country of kind of celebrating the anti-hero, you know, the person that bucks against the system. And I think there's a certain strength there for a lot of people, especially people who are in situations that they're not too happy with, right? And so then you get these very, very self-contained opportunities where, like you said, they come into the hood with bags of money and say, here, I need you to act this way, right? And in many ways, to a lot of people, it's a fantasy. So for somebody who's, say, living in suburbia, you know, they may have self-delusional fantasies of being a drug dealer, right?
Sure.
And so they listen to the music, and that's what they listen to when they're driving around the streets every day.
Sure.
And then you also have people who are actually in these environments, and it's almost, they hear it and it's like, dang, it's like, this is an expression of what I'm actually dealing with, right?
Sure.
Do you think that at a certain point, though, it just kind of went helter-skelter and just went off the rails, and the entertainment value took over everything, and therefore we get stuck with what we have now?
I tend to agree with you there to some degree, to a great degree, to a large degree. But again, being someone who came from it, again, being someone who saw the value in Tupac as a voice for conscious critical thinking on the part of young black males in 1993 through 96, when he had his, rise to fame. I saw the value of him there, and then I also saw the destructive nature of some of the tropes that he would kind of parrot in his music.
Yeah.
But we got to think about this. We're talking about 20 to 25-year-old males a lot of the time who, again, have exposure only to about a 5-block radius their entire lives, and they see these things on a day-to-day basis, and then somebody's going to show up and make you a millionaire for doing it. Maybe the train has run away, and the entertainment value at this point has gotten beyond what people think that can be controlled. Yeah. I'm not one such individual. I feel as though, and I say this in the video as well, it is the responsibility of a Christopher Strong, AKA Dow Jones, Dow Jesus, right? When I was out there self-aggrandizing and putting all this crazy music out, it's the responsibility of my awakened and enlightened self to get out and do the work of inspiring a more critical thought process about how to absorb hip hop among younger people. And I think that's the responsibility of a Colion Noir. And I think that's the responsibility of a Future and a Drake. But you're not going to get that from people who are being rewarded from that system. So I'm pretty loud-mouthed when it comes to these discussions.
Yeah, you're right. Because one of the more contradictive aspects of my personality is, like, if I was mentoring a young kid, or if I had a son, I wouldn't let him listen to music I listen to.
Sure.
I understand the influence that has, and I can always disassociate myself and say, well, I mean, I understand what it is. I just dismiss it as pure entertainment. So it is something that I gripe with daily. I have not come to a conclusion about it. If I looked at you in your eyes right here and says that I'm going to stop listening in the future, I'd be a liar, a dead liar. You know what I mean? But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I always know you are in many ways kind of contributing to this.
Sure. No, it's about energy. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. The value in the system that we have for our economy, it comes down to energy and what we give our energy to. And if we give our energy to Future or to Young Thug or Lil Yachty or whoever it is that's spouting off the most ignorant nonsense on a day-to-day basis, if we continue to do that, then there are people who are sitting there with a microscope looking at the energy and where it's building up.
Yeah. And
they're going to make an investment where they see that energy.
Yeah.
So if I'm not out and I'm not in the streets creating an equal response for that energy that's kind of built up around this ignorance, then what can I do to complain about it? You see what I'm saying? Like, what point?
And I always talk about
playing.
And I always talk about the whole notion of the image of the young black male with a firearm has been hijacked.
Sure.
For the dozens of for the scores of people throughout this country who don't interact with people like you and I on an everyday basis, and I don't interact with them either. My perception about them and their perception about me is going to be largely what we encounter through the media.
Absolutely.
And so if what we're pushing out there and celebrating the most is the hyperbole of what was supposed to be a very small facet of a larger scheme of things, which is hip hop, then that starts to become the image. And unfortunately, I think it's like when you watch a movie and you walk out of it and forget, wait a minute, what I just watched wasn't real. And you started trying to apply it to life, and it's like, that didn't work like that because it was just a movie. You were going to say something before we go.
I would agree with you. with regard to how the media creates these images. But I mean, you have to realize that you know, beyond hip hop, America has always had a relationship with the savage African American male, right? So to some degree, what we're doing is satiating an appetite for this type of imagery in the people, right? We have to call ourselves as a nation. That's not just young black males, right, over in West Dallas and South Oak Cliff and Southside Chicago. That's the entirety of the nation, because you got to think hip hop can't be what it is without a consumership that extends beyond the black community.
Absolutely.
So it's not just us that have to call ourselves into account. We have to have this conversation on a larger scale.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, appreciate you for joining me. I'm glad I could give you the ability to get that out there, because I know I watched some stuff and I'm like, I said that, I said this, and I said that, and didn't get in there. So I'm glad I could let you go ahead and get that out there. But I actually haven't even, like, I remember the conversation because I had it, but I still need to go and actually watch the episode myself. So
that's what's up. It's a good episode. All in all, it came out well. I just like to make sure the whole point is out there.
Absolutely.
I speak to people on a regular basis regarding this stuff, and I got to make sure I'm looking good in the eyes of the people.
Hey, absolutely, man. Because like like you said, at the end of the day, no matter how many people are watching you, somebody's watching you. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, man. Appreciate it, man. You have a good one.
All right, you too. Thanks for having me, man.
All right. And when we come back, Crack Magazine is calling out the NRA, and I've got a response for those guys. So